ever since 2009, I've been sharing my story and really trying to help people heal from the significant damage that abortion does to women, to families, and to our society.
Welcome to the Christian Channel. I'm your host, Yeniza Munoz. Today we have a very special guest. We have Abby Johnson, the creator of the film Unthinkable. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, Abby.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Remember when banks were the cornerstone of our communities, upholding our values and supporting our way of life? Today, many banks have strayed from those principles, but there's a better choice. For over 65 years, America's Christian Credit Union has been dedicated to serving faith-filled Americans with integrity and devotion. Make the switch to America's Christian Credit Union and enjoy great rates, cutting-edge mobile banking, access to over 5,000 shared branches, and 30,000 ATMs nationwide. Switching banks may seem daunting, but consider what big corporate banks are doing with your deposits. America's Christian Credit Union was founded by a pastor for the benefit of its members, ensuring your money aligns with your values. Plus, Christian Channel listeners can get an additional $100 bonus with the promo code CC2024 at checkout. Why settle for banks that don't share your values? Faith-based aligned banking is within reach. Make the switch to America's Christian Credit Union today. Terms and restrictions do apply. Visit americaschristiancu.com/cc2024 for complete program details and to get started. America's Christian Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Now, your film, Unthinkable, is an amazing film because it touches base on a topic that's very sensitive to many, but it's an important topic to talk about because it's educational and it's the issues that are going on today in our country. Now, your career took a significant turn in October of 2009. Can you share with our audience what happened and what led you to this life-changing decision?
Yeah, so I worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years. I was a clinic director at a facility in Bryan, College Station, Texas. I got involved in college while I was a student at Texas A&M University. I grew up in a Christian home, but really didn't know much about abortion. We didn't sit around the dinner table and talk about controversial issues. I think my parents kind of assumed that the church youth group was talking about those issues, and the church assumed that parents were talking about those sorts of issues. And so, because of that, nobody was talking about it. And it was a different time in culture. Abortion, homosexuality, those sorts of things were not talked about in the media like they are today. And I just didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about abortion, didn't know what a pregnancy center was, didn't talk about adoption and things like that. And so when I went to college, met a woman who was working with Planned Parenthood, and she was trying to recruit people to be volunteers and clients and potentially staff for the organization. And she started talking to me about all the great things that Planned Parenthood did and all the, health care they supposedly provided, how they particularly wanted to help low-income women. And I mean, who doesn't want to help low-income women? Who doesn't want to help women who are in need? And so I got involved when I was 20 years old, and thought I was helping women, thought I was doing the right thing, was there for a long period of time, and really bought into the Planned Parenthood talking points of wanting abortion to be safe, legal, and rare, believing that abortion was good for poor women, for single women, for young women. And, really became not a woman who was pro-choice, but really a woman who was pro-abortion, and moved up the ranks of the ladder. We're not talking about some mom and pop organization. This is a multi-billion dollar industry. Was very successful with the organization, became Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year in 2008. And in 2009, witnessed something I'd never seen before. It was a live ultrasound guided abortion procedure. Ultrasounds are not typically used during an abortion procedure. Abortions are generally performed in a blind sort of manner. The abortion instruments are inserted into the woman's uterus without ultrasound guidance. The abortionist will just blindly poke around inside of the woman's uterus until he thinks he has enough blood and tissue in a glass jar. And that was the only way I knew abortion to be performed. And so I was called in to assist in this type of abortion, and I was shocked as I watched a 13-week-old baby fight and struggle for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew then that there was life in the womb, there was humanity in the womb, and I knew that if those two things were true, then I was on the wrong side of this debate. And so I ended up leaving Planned Parenthood. I did not have the intention of speaking out publicly about my story. But when I left and Planned Parenthood figured out that I was not supporting their cause anymore, they ended up suing me and trying to get a permanent gag order against me. They did not want me sharing the things that I knew that had happened inside of the abortion clinic. And that is what made that's what made the headlines, right? You know, the media was like, why are you trying to keep her quiet? What do you not want her to share? And so ever since then, ever since 2009, I've been sharing my story and really trying to help people heal from the significant damage that abortion does to women, to families, and to our society.
No, yes, very well said. And also, the unfortunate situations of where some clinics, they don't really ask any questions on the conception of the child, if there was trauma or was it a forced conception. Why do you think that some centers don't offer counseling before they offer termination of pregnancy?
Well, no centers ask. No centers offer counseling. Um, they don't want to know. They want to get women in and out as quickly as possible. Time is an enemy to the abortion industry. So this is why they all oppose waiting periods for abortions. It's why they all oppose ultrasounds, mandatory ultrasounds before abortions. Anything that actually provides women with information, anything that requires a woman sit with her decision, sit in that valley of decision where a woman may actually have to think about her choice, that is an enemy to the abortion industry. Anything that might cause her to make that maternal connection to her child, that is an enemy. And so they don't want to counsel women. They don't want women to think that maybe I could be a successful parent. Maybe I could place my child for adoption. The ideal situation for an abortion clinic is for a woman to walk in knowing that she's pregnant or having an idea that she might be pregnant, to have a confirmation of pregnancy through a pregnancy test, and for them to be able to get her on the table that day for an abortion, or to be able to get pills in her body to go ahead and terminate that pregnancy that day. They don't want her going home and thinking about it, or talking to a partner, or talking to parents, talking to friends, and actually considering the decision. They want to go ahead and terminate that pregnancy the moment that they have confirmation that there is a pregnancy.
Hmm. And what's also very unfortunate about that is you start to see it as a business in their eyes. And they just want to keep the numbers high so that they keep the doors open. And whether it's a free service for some mothers or an affordable service for some mothers, it is still, someone is still paying them to keep their doors open. So it's as if they want to keep the numbers high instead of offering counseling, which is an unfortunate situation. I know for anyone who's not watching or listening, her film Unthinkable is a very powerful, powerful film. Just a quick highlight, and we'll bring it up again in the end of the podcast. How can people watch or support Unthinkable?
So it's not out yet in theaters. We haven't had a theatrical release. We are um, currently screening the film for large groups, for church groups, for large pro-life groups. They can go to unthinkabledoc.com and get more information. If someone wants to be an investor in the film, they can also get information at unthinkabledoc.com. Um, we are, well, a lot of people have watched the film, and Unplanned, my first film, was, a very powerful film. And I think it was the first time that people had really been exposed to the inside of an abortion facility. A lot of people that have watched Unthinkable have said to me and to others, Unthinkable is even more powerful than Unplanned. And the reason they say that is because it's not just one woman's story. Unthinkable is many, many women's stories. And Unthinkable was brought together because of our ministry, and then there were none. In 2012, I started a ministry called And Then There Were None. And our goal is to empty abortion facilities of their workers, to really create a stigma around working in the abortion industry, that this is not normal work. This is not a normal job. It's not normal to go to work every day and to kill babies. It's not normal to work in that industry. It's not normal for your paycheck to be built off of innocent children's lives, right? That's not normal. And so, and we know it's traumatic. We know it's traumatic work. Even when I talk to people who identify as pro-choice people, and I tell them about the work that we do, and I say, you have to admit that working in the abortion industry could be traumatic. And every pro-choice person I talk to, they say, yeah, I guess it would be traumatic. Piecing body parts of aborted babies back together is traumatic. And so we want to create a stigma around working in the abortion industry and to let them know that there is a way out, that they don't have to do this, that there's better options out there for them. A lot of women, I would say most of the women that work in the abortion industry are single mothers. They feel very trapped. There's a spiritual battle around working inside of an industry that is evil, that is fraught with demons. This is not like leaving your job from a fast food restaurant. This is not like leaving your job from an insurance agency. This is literally a battle of good and evil. And this is a light and darkness sort of battle. When they decide that they want to leave this type of work, Satan tries to grip them even harder. It's almost unexplainable to someone who hasn't been in that situation, but we have had people, women who have decided, I'm going to leave the abortion industry, and they contact us, and that same week their house burns down. They'll get in a terrible car accident, and they'll say, well, now I don't know if I can leave, because how can I leave this stable paycheck that's coming in, right? It's Satan attacks them in a profound way, trying to convince them that they cannot leave. They need this paycheck. They need the abortion industry. And we're here to say, no, this is a spiritual attack on you. You can leave. Jesus is waiting. We're here to support you. Come on, right? Like we're here to support you. That's what Christianity is about, right? It's about supporting other Christians. It's about being a bridge to help people come to the Lord. And so we have helped over 700 abortion clinic workers leave their jobs and come into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And so this film was really, it really came to fruition because of our ministry. We have taken over 24 of those abortion clinic workers who have left the industry. We brought them together for this film, and we wanted to tell some of their stories. And not just the story of them leaving, but what is happening inside of these clinics, right? Because I left and I started telling my story, and people in the pro-choice movement were saying, well, that's just one person's story, right? That's just your experience. But it's not everybody's experience. And so what we wanted to show through Unthinkable was that no, this is a systemic problem. It's happening at every abortion clinic across the country, and it needs to be exposed. And so that's what you see in the film Unthinkable. It is shocking to people, the things that these women are sharing. I mean, it's honestly jaw-dropping. People leave in silence after they watch it. It's hard for them to even process the things that they're hearing, the things that are happening to women, the things that are happening to these innocent babies, but it must be exposed. Everything that is done in darkness must be brought to light. And that is what we are doing in the film Unthinkable.
Very well said. You already answered a few of my questions, which one of them was, with all the unfortunate issues going on in the world, there's a lot of trauma that's women maybe have gone through in a relationship. And so then they're trying to relate to the other female who's trying to terminate the pregnancy. And for that, they think it's a way to justify the situation. But when they're seeing the reality that it's just another innocent human being that has nothing to do with the trauma that they've endured, it's a different experience and added trauma to that, unfortunately. Now, with this debate going on in the US, some people always argue that it's necessary for the mother's life. But at this point, I mean, for certain situations, that is, but at this point, in my opinion, it's become a birth control method, which is very unfortunate. What is your opinion on that? Is there a way that you think there should be a bill passed where they shouldn't allow in certain states to have it at 13 weeks, or they should really investigate each conception and make sure that if it was a forced conception or if there's a medical emergency, because it's now become a birth control, which is not how any of this should go. It is a human life and it's a serious procedure, as you were saying.
Well, I don't believe abortion should be allowed for any reason at all. I have an adopted son that was conceived through assault, and you cannot look at him. I would dare anybody to look him in the face and to say to him, because of your conception, you are not worthy of life. He is as worthy of life. He is as valuable. He has as much dignity as any of my children that were conceived in love. And he was a child at the moment of conception, just like any other child. God created him with infinite dignity and infinite worth at the very moment of his conception, no matter how he was conceived. And so the idea that we would say to a child that was created through violence, the answer to trauma is to create more violence is absurd.
Exactly. No, very
We,
well said. Hmm.
we don't answer violence by violence. We answer violence by love and bringing life into the world. That is an answer to the violence of assault. I've talked to hundreds of OB-GYNs, and they have all told me there is never a situation where we must kill a child, where we must dismember a child, brutally dismember and kill a child in order to save the life of a mother. There is never a time where we have to do that. But we have bought the lie from the left that we must kill children to save another life. And that is not true. There may be times where we have to deliver a child early. And in those situations, we work to save both mother and child. But there is never a time where we have to violently rip the limbs one by one off of the body of a child. There is never a time where we have to crush the skull of a baby in the womb in order to save the life of a mother. It is not abortion that saves the life of a mother, it is birth. Birth will save the life of a mother. And if that is the case, then we must work to save both lives. And so I reject the premise that there is ever a time where we need to kill a child to save another. I reject the premise that there is ever a time where violence is needed to heal trauma. I reject that outright. What I do believe is that life from the moment of conception matters in every single instance. And that should be the answer to for every Christian. If we believe that, if we believe in God's goodness, if we believe in the Bible, if we believe in the Word of God, then that should be the answer, period. It shouldn't matter. We shouldn't be fighting for abortion to be banned at a certain week gestational limit. We should be fighting for all life to be preserved at the very moment that God gives us humanity and dignity and life. And that is the moment that He creates us. And that is at the moment of conception.
Yes, very well said. Also, with your documentary Unthinkable, aside from so many other documentaries coming out, I love how Unthinkable speaks about the reality, the harsh reality of this situation as you were going into a very detailed description. Because when people see advertisements on social media, since unfortunately all of our youth is mostly on social media versus cable television, they're streaming on their iPhones or Androids, and they'll see advertisements where it kind of looks like a Hallmark commercial, and they forget that the harsh reality of the procedure of the termination and of the life and the whole domino effect of it all. And then when you also have to look at the bigger picture, it's a numbers game for these companies, whether they're like, well, I didn't pay anything when I went in, or was that I paid for what my income was. Someone else is still receiving
Mhm.
funding. And so it's unfortunate when you really have to look at the big picture and ask the right questions. But when you see these advertisements, it's not exposing any of that. And circling back to Unthinkable, you are doing the unthinkable by doing the work. You've experienced this being a woman, a mother, and someone who's adopted a child who was from an unfortunate situation, but that was actually a blessing because not, as you mentioned, it's never just because the conception was not what the woman wanted, it's still the child has nothing to do with that trauma. And it goes back into the idea that there is something bigger than evil. There is love, and that will always conquer over evil. Going back to what you said as well, you can't feed hate with more hate. It will never, ever, ever fix anything. Do you think that this film coming out, unfortunately, do you think that there's going to be a lot of backlash? How are you going to handle this backlash? I also feel that it shouldn't have any backlash, but unfortunately, with what's going on in the world today, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hope there is backlash. I think they say there's no such thing as bad PR. I hope there is backlash. There's a lot of backlash with Unplanned, and that ended up being great for us. So I hope there are people that
Helps them wake up and question their
it
thoughts,
does.
doesn't it?
Yeah. I hope that there are a lot of blogs and reviews and reports that are negative about the film because all that does is feed curiosity. And that's exactly what happened with Unplanned. I hope that happens with Unthinkable as well. Curiosity creates conversion. And I have seen that time and time again. There was not a day, Unplanned was in theaters for 14 weeks. And every single day, of those 14 weeks, there was not a day that I woke up that there wasn't an email in my inbox that said, I went to go watch Unplanned as a critic and I walked out pro-life. And that is the exact response that we are praying for with Unthinkable, that people would walk in as a skeptic, that they would walk in supporting abortion, and that they would walk out changed, that they would walk out understanding the value of life, that at least they would walk out saying, what is happening inside of these abortion centers is wrong and it's dangerous and something needs to change. That little bit of doubt can plant a seed that can lead to permanent conversion. And that's what we're looking for. We are fine to allow the Holy Spirit to bring about that full conversion, that full change. We're just here to plant those seeds of doubt. And I believe that Unthinkable is the film that can do that.
Very well said. And now, with all the states in the United States having their own laws, do you think that maybe this film will help people want to pass more bills to hopefully close down some of these Planned Parenthoods instead of opening them up? Also, maybe adding more counseling in high schools, showing them that it's okay to speak about a situation that have happened, and maybe options of being able to give up your child for adoption versus going to some extreme way, or even trying to do it at home or something extreme. I think people need to come together and just vote on stuff that is meaningful to their kids, and not to like selfish wantings like, oh, I have to go to college, or I can't have a child out of wedlock. I have to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe if there's more counseling or understanding that life can be unpredictable, but you cannot terminate a life if it doesn't go the path that wanted it to be. So maybe
Yeah.
this film might help wake people up and have them understand that they come together and vote no on certain things, or maybe put things on the ballot to where there's an opportunity to have there be change. Do you plan on trying to pass or create any bills maybe in certain states? I know you're in Texas, we're in California.
Yeah, so I mean, we hope that we always hope that that any film that we do is a catalyst for change. We're going to be Amendment 4 is on the ballot in Florida, which would ratify the state constitution, similar to what happened in Kansas and Ohio. So we're doing statewide screenings before the election in November in Florida, hoping to influence voters. So we are doing that in Florida. We're hoping to do that in other places, even though the film is not going to be out until probably February. We're going to be doing that in October, hoping to influence the vote. I hope that when people see truth, they are motivated to make change. That's what we all should do. And so we are praying diligently that when people see this film, that legislators and just, normal people, right, will rise up and will say, we need to make changes in our own states, in our own communities. We need to pass legislation to protect women, to protect innocent lives. We are going to be doing congressional screenings of the film. We have a 20-minute clip of a 20-minute edit of the film that is now in front of former President Trump. So we are doing everything we can to try to influence legislation, but it's not, we know that legislation is such a small part of it. We know it's really about influencing the hearts and minds of individuals. And so, that's why we're trying to really get people in seats when the theatrical release is upon us, because we know that just each person that sees the film will be touched in some way, and hopefully that will move them to make individual change and to make change in their own communities.
Well, I would like to applaud you for your advocacy and your passion for definitely saving lives, millions of that, because unfortunately, millions of children get terminated in this country, and this film will save millions in the future. Also, to add to that is you started off working at Planned Parenthood. So again, it's a personal experience. And you are a mother yourself. You've even adopted a child, another personal experience. And now you are a filmmaker. You went from the medical field into making films. Now, did you ever have a drive for that in the past? Where you just became a producer from just passion and faith. See, there you go. There's a full, real testament. Instead of using the fear or what in the trauma that you experienced to fuel hate or to fuel judgment, you're using that for love and to saving others. Going back to what you said, is it just because there was a traumatic situation doesn't mean that you have to fuel it with more trauma and hate. You can change that path with love. And yeah, unfortunately, there is a spiritual attack in our country, and we all just have to be very vigilant and ask questions and know the reality of what is that we're signing up for. And I just want to applaud you again, everyone that's watching. I highly recommend to watch Unthinkable when it is released, and also mention the website again so people can support your film and the other film that you've had unplanned.
Yeah, so it's unthinkabledoc.com. Unplanned streams on several different platforms, Amazon, I think it's on Tubi. You can find out more about our organization, and then there were none, at abortionworker.com. You can find out about all of our ministries, my podcasts, all the things I do at abbyj.com.
So, Abby, do you recommend any websites or hotlines where young mothers or mothers who are actually, unfortunately, thinking about terminating the pregnancy, instead of having that path to where they can contact someone and put their child up for adoption?
Yeah, so in 2019, I started an organization called Loveline, and we have a hotline that is always available for women to call, whether they are single mothers that just delivered and are in need, or whether a woman is pregnant and is in need of services, even if she's not abortion minded, but if she's just in need of help. She can either go to loveline.com and she can email us, text us, or she can call the hotline, and that is 888 550 1588. She can text that line, call us, or email us, and we're always available.
Beautiful. And for all of our listeners or viewers, we're going to have that link in the bio as well of this podcast. Well, thank you so much, Abby, for taking the time to speaking with me here on the Christian channel. I'm Yeniza Munoz, and everyone that's tuned in, I highly recommend to check out this beautiful documentary that will be released hopefully by next year. In our link to our bio, we'll have all of her information there as well. Thank you, Abby, and thank you for the amazing work you are doing and the millions of lives you will be saving in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.